The Sound of Dow podcast is also available to listen to on iTunes, Spotify, and Audible. So if you want to listen to your podcast, you can go check it out there. If not, what's up, guys?
I don't think so, goggle glasses. You need to shut up, if anything. It is not your place to tell any of us to shut up. It is not yours or anyone else's place to tell us how to feel. You are simply saying what all of the shits are thinking.
Alright, folks, this is not satire. The woke mob is after me for defending the name Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, that's right. Not the Redskins, not the Indians, the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to explain to you why I am not apologizing, why they are fundamentally wrong on every single level, and more on this podcast coming right up today. All right, how are we all doing? Happy Thursday, everyone. So let's all go over how this started, okay? So obviously last Sunday we had the Super Bowl, and for the record, I was rooting for Tampa. I was rooting for Tom Brady to finish the storybook, and I'm very happy that he did. It was amazing, okay? It was absolutely amazing to watch left-wing Twitter, to watch woke Twitter absolutely melt down at the fact that a Trump supporter and the greatest of all time just won the Super Bowl again. You had people unironically, like not joking, claiming that it was racist for Tom Brady to beat Patrick Mahomes on Black History Month. And that was just an absolute spectacle to watch. That was amazing. I was very happy. But the funny thing about the Super Bowl, the best thing about the Super Bowl is that the woke left lost either way, though. Because at the same time you had people protesting Tom Brady, people angry about Tom Brady, at that same time, it was revealed a few hours before the Super Bowl on that day that a so-called Native American rights group was going to be protesting the name Kansas City Chiefs. Right. Not the Redskins, not the Indians, like not protesting those mascots. Now we're even going for the Chiefs, which has generally been seen as like that mascot is fine. That's not offensive. But now they're after the name Chiefs as well. And so this drama all started when I just said what everyone was really thinking, which is I told these people to like basically watch the game and shut up on TikTok. Take a look. Oh, for the love of God, just shut up. There, I said it. Everyone's thinking it, so I'm just going to say it. Just shut up, please. Okay? Thank you very much. For the record, I am not apologizing for that, okay? Vince Dow does not disavow his statements. Vince Dow absolutely stands by his statements that people spending their Super Bowl Sundays outside the stadium protesting the name Kansas City Chiefs really should just shut up and get a life. But the funny thing about this video, the great thing about this video was the fact that the comment section was basically just full of people agreeing with me, including many Native Americans agreeing with me. That didn't make some of the woke crowd very happy. It's called trolling. We do a little bit of trolling. Okay, in the days following this video, as you can expect, a little bit of a frenzy, a little bit of a cancel culture backlash came for me, and it all started with this guy, this Lakota guy, and I'm not like just stereotyping. His name on TikTok is actually Lakota guy, and he's semi-sizable on the app. Made this video in response to my video telling people protesting the Kansas City Chiefs to shut up. Take a look. Just shut up.
Shut up, huh? It's really sad that young, obtuse puppets like yourself that parrot these talking points never really look at the details.
Young, obtuse puppets. All right, anyways.
Because us, as natives, we're not the ones that decided to put Asians in internment camps, basically concentration camps, during World War II. We also didn't tell you to shut up when there's over 1,400 reports of anti-Asian racism because of the coronavirus and other issues. An issue that's gotten so bad that New York City launched a $100,000 effort to combat Asian discrimination. My community doesn't tell Asian Americans to shut up when they themselves want to attack their own stereotypes, like the model minority. People like Nathan Fant from Princeton. The Native community stands in solidarity with the Asian community against these type of racial attacks. But you don't want to talk about stuff like this. You just want to talk another oppressed community to shut up.
You know, it's really funny the type of racial tribalism, no pun intended, that they seem to see the world through. Like, everything is just about my race versus your race, which is, like, really makes no sense. It's actually kind of racist, actually quite divisive. But regardless, okay, whatever. We know they all see the world like that. We know they view the world through an entirely racial lens. But can we just go over the brilliance of this TikTok? Okay, so this person just compared internment camps, hate crimes, and discrimination, all of that, to the name Kansas City Chiefs. Did you get that straight? So he was basically saying, well, when you guys are oppressed, we stand by you, but when we're oppressed, you guys don't stand by us. Again, racial tribalism, that's genuinely how they see the world. But did you get that? He compared internment, hate crimes, and discrimination to the name Kansas City Chiefs, like talking like those are equal fields of oppression. And like what kind of argument is that? And people are going to say, well, Vince, he's not talking about Kansas City Chiefs. He's talking about all the other historic oppression and stuff that, Native Americans faced. And it's like, no, that's not true. Because my video, you guys can watch my video. You guys saw my video. I specifically was only talking about the name Kansas City Chiefs. So that's his argument. That's his argument, is comparing hate crimes, internment, and discrimination to the name Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, but yeah, following that response, and I use the term response in quote unquote very liberally, because I don't even know if I would call it that. I don't even know if I can grant it the honors of being that. But I got a bunch of comments from the wokesters on my post, and I figured it would be worth to go over the ones that I kept getting over and over and over again. So let's check out some of the response from the wokesters who believe that Kansas City Chiefs is an offensive name. Okay, so this guy says, no other race is socially accepted as mascots. So if it was your race and culture being mocked, would you be okay with it? What? Okay, first of all, the name Kansas City Chiefs is not a mocking of Native Americans. Okay, chiefs are literally the leaders of the tribe. Chiefs are people that represent power, strength, and wisdom. Okay, like we're not even talking about Washington Redskins or Cleveland Indians here. We're talking about Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are a good thing. Chiefs are a positive mascot. But anyways, let's assess this claim right here. No other race, and when he says race, he's obviously talking about the culture attached to that race. So let's fill that in. No other race and its culture is socially accepted as mascots. And by the way, he misuses the term race because Native Americans as a race, not all of them are chiefs and tribes in the way that the Kansas City Chiefs are supposed to represent. Like Native Americans refer to two continents worth of people here, and they're very diverse. And it's very funny to see these people always refer to Native Americans as such a homogenous group when it's the exact opposite of that. But anyways, no other race or ethnicity and its culture is culturally accepted as mascots in sports. Hold on, what? Minnesota Vikings, Boston Celtics, Dallas Cowboys, Oakland Raiders and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, New Orleans Saints, New England Patriots. Oh, and let's go down to college mascots as well. Okay, USC Trojans, UCF Knights, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I'm surprised nobody has come for the name Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And their mascot is literally a leprechaun. Like, but it's a white guy, so that's okay. But even like a positive, badass representation of Native Americans, that's not okay because obviously equality, right? But Oklahoma Sooners, okay. UCSB Gauchos, West Virginia Mountaineers, Ole Miss Rebels, UPenn Quakers, Louisiana Lafayette Ragin' Cajuns. That's another one. Like Cajuns are an actual group of people, and that group of people is the mascot. But no, guys, Native Americans are the only ones that get this. And lastly, if you want to count Aztecs as separately from United States region Native Americans, you could also say San Diego State Aztecs. So what are you talking about? Other races, ethnicities, and their cultures are not socially accepted as mascots. There's literally a ton of different ones that are accepted as mascots. And some of them, like the Celtics and the Irish and the Cajuns, are not even a cultural reference to those groups of people. Their mascot is literally those groups of people themselves. And yet you still think Native Americans are being singled out by the name Kansas City Chiefs? Come on now. And of course, in response to that, I get arguments like this. Cowboys, Knights, and Saints aren't an ethnicity or race, right? Okay, so yes, that's true. Cowboys, Knights, and Saints are not ethnicities or races. But guess what? Chiefs are not an ethnicity or race either, okay? The name Chiefs, and obviously, like, there are many different types of Chiefs, but obviously, as the Kansas City mascot is supposed to represent, the name Chiefs, the Chiefs are not the Native American race. The Chiefs are not referring to a race or ethnicity of people. Chiefs are a role, an occupation held within certain Native American cultures and societies. The same way in which knights, okay, were roles held in certain European societies. The same way cowboys, as referred to by the Dallas Cowboys, Oklahoma State Cowboys, right? Sooners, same thing. Those were certain roles, certain occupations, certain types of people within certain white cultures, white subcultures, and white societies. The name Saints is not so much drawn on racial lines, but the reason I threw that in is because it is a cultural reference to New Orleans and its high Catholic population. Again, chiefs are not a race of people. Chiefs are roles held within Native American society. And guess what? Where do mascots like this come from? These are just people. These are just cultural references to certain cultures. Most mascots in America are cultural references to white cultures. But it's funny because these people always cry about representation. They always say, hey, there's not enough minorities and minority cultures are not represented enough in culture and pop culture. And yet when they get representation like this, like for example, Native American cultures are the ones that are drawn from for sports teams mascots in the same way that white cultures are. It's, oh no, this is unacceptable, cultural appropriation, oh my gosh. And it's like, dude, you can't even make the argument with this that Chiefs are an offensive mascot, right? It's now you're just basically straight up saying that any representation of Native Americans as a mascot or representation of Native Americans at all is bad. And then what is, I saw a lot of people saying this too, and this is a great argument, is, you know, what is the logical end goal of that? Well, guess what? You get to the point where only white people are represented in culture, pop culture, and society. Okay, like all the mascots are only white. All the TV shows only white characters. Right? This is the logical conclusion that you draw from saying that, for example, Native Americans are not allowed to be represented within any type of pop culture icons. So what is it exactly that these people want? Because you cannot have no representation and more representation at the same time. You have to choose one here, folks. And Chiefs is as positive a representation of Native Americans as you can get. You can't even make the argument that is offensive because it's simply not. You're simply mad that Native Americans are being represented at all, but you claim that you need more representation. Here's another comment. It says, you're literally proving the opposite point. I guess that says other people. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but other people can be cowboys or Quakers or Trojans or Saints, and none of this reinforces a negative or limiting stereotype. Okay, first of all, again, neither does Chiefs. Chiefs are positive people. They're people of power. They're leaders. Okay, but on top of that, yes, anyone can be a cowboy, technically, but the cultural reference that we're talking about with cowboy is to, you know, the Old West. And guess what? Most of the time, the term cowboy was specifically meant to refer to white cowboys because, you know, Hispanic cowboys were called gauchos, like UCSB is named after, or vaqueros, or other names like that, right? So we're making a specific reference to a white subculture here, and that's clearly not an issue. Okay, anyways, let's keep going through this because I'm having fun with this, okay? So here's another comment I got a lot. It says, what if it was the Kansas City Asians? Would you still feel the same? And the answer is yes. Call them the Asians, the Orientals, whatever you want. That's fine. Okay, seriously, that's fine. That's cool. But the thing is, you do draw a false equivalence here. I'm actually not going to grant that argument because it's still a false equivalence. You're still being disingenuous when you say this because, again, Chiefs are not a race or ethnicity of people. So the Asian equivalent to Kansas City Chiefs will not be the Kansas City Asians or the Kansas City Yellowskins or the Kansas City Orientals. The equivalent would be a role, a certain like culturally recognized role that's held or historically held in certain Asian societies. So the Asian equivalent to Kansas City Chiefs would be something like the Kansas City Ninjas, or the Kansas City Emperors, or the Kansas City Black Belts, Kansas City Samurai, Kansas City Monks, okay, something like that. And those are all perfectly fine. Like, seriously, like, what? People are supposed to have a problem with mascots like that? Those are cool mascots. So those are fierce mascots. And by the way, they are positive representations and positive acknowledgments of Asian history and Asian culture. Although personally, I think if you want to really have a fierce mascot, you should name your mascot off after the Mongols because they were like the fiercest Asians in history. So Kansas City Mongols or Kansas City Khans, I think that's a really cool name, Kansas City Khans. But again, all these mascots are fine. Okay? They are fine. And guess what? A lot of Asian people in this country, I would assume especially Asian immigrants, would actually like that. They would actually appreciate it. So my answer is not, well, no, it's different because blah, blah, blah. No, my answer is yes. Literally go for it. Do that too. And in fact, actually, when I think about it, I'm surprised that there are not more Asian mascots because I think Asian mascots would make good mascots. So Kansas City Ninjas or Kansas City Emperors, something like that. I'm surprised there aren't actually more of that. But I encourage there to be more of that. Go ahead, do it. All right, folks, next up, here's another comment I get. It's that, yes, we do want representation. No, you don't. No, you don't. But yes, we do want representation but it needs to be accurate representation. And the representation here is not accurate. That's true. You're right. It's not the most accurate representation. It is based largely on a lot of stereotypes. But guess what? That's with everything in pop culture in general. Okay? Do you think that knights in shining, you have the whole medieval times sort of pop culture reference, knights in shining armor? That is not historically accurate, at all. It's everything in pop culture is exaggerated and sensationalized for the marketing and for the, the glory and the coolness and the badassery of it, okay? But that's with everything. That's with everything in culture. Cowboys, okay? The cowboys and outlaws of the Old West. Those stories are completely exaggerated, stereotyped, and misrepresented. This is with everything. Okay, most war movies and historical movies in general are actually everything that is based on some type of truth and is turned into some type of pop culture, even if it's a documentary, basically all of those things are exaggerated and sensationalized to some degree for the coolness of it. So like Osceola riding into Florida State Stadium with a flaming tomahawk on the Renegade and, stabbing the field at the 50-yard line. Is that sort of an exaggerated, sensationalized representation of Seminole culture? Yes. But again, not only is that really cool, okay, I don't see why you mind because it's cool, it's badass, but that's with everything. And you want to talk about Asian culture, it's the same thing. Ninjas and samurai, that is sort of a smaller type of pop culture reference, but it definitely is. And you have stuff like, karate movies, kung fu movies. Those things are all exaggerated, completely unrealistic, okay? And again, nobody cares. That's fine because that's just how pop culture works. You exaggerate stuff for the story because it tells a better story. So that it's not accurate representation. I don't see that as much of a valid argument either. And this argument factors in great with the tomahawk chop, which is a tradition that was started at Florida State, but the Kansas City Chiefs and Atlanta Braves do it too. And genuinely, it's one of the coolest things in sports. Now, to my understanding, this entire chant is completely made up. I don't believe any Native American tribe actually employed that tradition, but are people somehow to say that this is super wrong and super bad? As many people say this reinforces negative stereotypes, but all I see there are positive stereotypes. Okay, this is cool. This portrays Seminoles and whatever other Native Americans are trying to be represented by the tomahawk chop as badasses. It's a cool thing. And I should also point out itself that the Seminole tribe itself actually has a very close relationship with Florida State University. The Seminole tribe itself approves of and supports that they actually appreciate being used as the mascot, and they actually stood up amidst a lot of the cancel culture and said, no, you are never going to change the name of the Seminoles because we like it. We like it this way. We appreciate this. But of course, the wokesters won't care. I'm sure they're going to come for the Florida State Seminoles next. Anyway, and funny story about the tomahawk chop, because I had some people trying to say, there are studies to show, and studies as in opinion polls, but there are studies to show that these types of stereotypes have a negative impact on Native Americans in this country. And it's funny story about the tomahawk chop. Let me just tell this story real quick. So when I was in elementary school, that was when Florida State football was at its peak. That was when you had Jameis Winston, Jimbo Fisher. And I remember hearing the tomahawk chop on TV for the first time and thinking that it was the most badass thing I'd ever seen in sports, because it was, especially when Doak Campbell Stadium used to be roaring with fans before they started to suck, right? And the image that it put into my mind of what Seminole people were was not some type of negative, savage, whatever stereotype. I thought they were badasses. I thought they were badass, noble warriors. And, funny story about this, in third grade, I remember in third grade, you're supposed to learn Native American history. I remember we had to do a project where we picked one Native American tribe and basically did a report on them. And because of my respect for the tomahawk chop and how cool I thought that was as a kid, I chose the Seminoles. Okay, and so when I was doing that report, I actually genuinely learned about real Seminole history, and it was actually, you guys always talk about, expand your culture, expand your diversify your narrative. Okay, I actually had this little cultural learning experience of the Seminole people because of the tomahawk chop. And had Florida State not had such a cool college football tradition, I guarantee I never would have done that report. I never would have learned the actual history of the Seminole people. And I also guarantee you want to talk about marginalization and representation. I guarantee you most people in this country know what the Seminoles are because of Florida State. But again, people don't really care about this. And I knew this was going to happen when they took the name off the Redskins. Okay, I immediately knew that it was going to be used to get rid of the Chiefs and the Braves and the Cleveland Indians or whatever next, which is a big reason why I was like, oh God, please do not take the name off the Redskins, because I know this is how they always start, right? It always starts like this. First, it's just Robert E. Lee is bad, and next thing that you know, they're tearing down statues of George Washington. Same thing here, right? But basically the lesson I've learned from all of this is that any representation of Native Americans in culture is bad. Okay, so you got that, folks. So, and it probably just extends to minorities in general. So you understand that, folks? Only white people can be represented in culture. And it's like, I think this is a stupid standard. I think this is actually kind of hurtful and racially divisive. But anyways, regardless, why don't we just cave to them? Why don't we just cave to the mob? So, folks, don't worry. Okay, for the wokesters, I have come up with some new culturally sensitive potential mascot ideas for the Kansas City Chiefs. The main one, the one I really like, is actually it's the Kansas City Caucasians. Okay, I think this is a perfect mascot because, again, it's like white people can only be represented. Okay, so I propose, ladies and gentlemen, the Kansas City Caucasians. Their mascot will be Jim, the middle-aged white dad. And basically what he'll do is at the games is he stands by a barbecue and he serves overcooked, way too well done hot dogs and hamburgers to the crowd. I think that's a great idea. But you could also do, I don't know, maybe the Kansas City Karens. The Kansas City soccer moms, the Kansas City minivans. Maybe we can go down that direction. Okay, I'm just kidding. Those are pretty weak mascots. But yeah, you guys see, keep the Kansas City Chiefs. It's fine. Okay, it's a fine mascot. But yeah, with that being said, that'll do it here for this podcast. I am not apologizing to the wokesters for defending the name Kansas City Chiefs. It is a fine mascot. It is a pretty cool mascot, honestly, and most of all, it is not offensive by like any standards. People keep saying, "Well, our ancestors fought to make sure stuff like this didn't happen." I got that comment a lot. They said our ancestors fought. It's for this, so it's not your opinion. It's not your place to speak out. And it's like, yeah, that's true. Your ancestors were fierce, badass warriors, and you're offended about the name Kansas City Chiefs? You think they'd be proud of you for that? Yeah, okay, exactly. Anyways, folks, that'll do it here for this podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, be sure to follow the podcast. If you're listening on iTunes, be sure to subscribe and give it a 5-star rating and review. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to give a like and subscribe. If you want to support my work, because we have some demonetization problems on YouTube a lot, and this podcast on iTunes and Spotify is not sponsored. If you're watching on YouTube, you can click the links down in my description for my Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, anything you want to send, just, donations. If you want to support my work, you can do that. Links are in the description. And until next time, remember, folks, alpha moves only. The Chiefs are a cool mascot. The Tomahawk Chop is cool. The Seminoles are a really cool mascot. And I'll see you guys later in the next podcast. Hey guys, if you're still watching, be sure to click the links down in my description for my Telegram channel, social medias, and that other stuff. And if you're still watching, comment, "This is it, Chief." Okay? If you made it to the end, comment, "This is it, Chief," in the comment section.